Odysseus is on his way, moving fast to seize your young foal, to tear her life from your embrace. Hecuba, run to the sacred altar. Fall at the knees of Agamemnon. Pray to the gods above and below. Plead for Polyxena's safety. And plead well, or you will see her throat slit, the dark blood pouring out her young life.
Daughter, come join your old mother and learn how your life will end.
Mother, your cries frighten me. I'm like a baby bird fallen from the nest.
My child. The Greeks will sacrifice you at Achilles' tomb.
Mother, you suffer pain, grief, horror. No more will I share your painful slavery. I have to die, and I will make the best of it. I am not a coward, but a young woman who can face the truth. Why should I live? My father was king of Troy, loved by our people. And his queen, my mother, raised me to be a royal bride, wooed by many suitors, a jewel among Trojan women, like a goddess, except for my mortality. But now I live as a slave, bought and sold like livestock, free game for my master or some male slave who will force me to do the unspeakable. Once upon a time, I had such dreams. And now, while my eyes can still look freely, let me shut out the light of day and make my home in Hades, my body lying in the world below. Mother, take heart. You did not bring me into this world to be a slave. To live under that yoke would turn me into what you hate, a woman without honor. I'm far luckier to be dead.
Hello and welcome to Peninsula Backstage, the show that looks inside local live theater and talks about upcoming productions that you can go see. I'm Nina Perry and I'm your host. You just saw portions of Hecuba Helen, which is being performed by Stanford Repertory Theater this summer. The play, which is a new adaptation of two plays by Euripides, Hecuba and Helen, combined into a single performance, is part of this year's 20th anniversary summer festival, whose theme is Nevertheless, They Persisted. Hecuba Helen is running at the Robley Studio Theater on the Stanford campus from July 26th through August 19th. Today on Peninsula Backstage, we'll be talking with Rush Rem, director and co-adapter of Hecuba Helen and artistic director of Stanford Repertory Theater, Alita Hayes, choreographer of Hecuba Helen, and Courtney Walsh, a co-adapter and actor playing the roles of Hecuba and Helen. Rush and Alita and Courtney, welcome to Peninsula Backstage.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And Courtney, thank you for starting off our show. And you were joined by Leah Zawada playing Polyxena and chorus actors Gianna Clark and Brenna McCulloch. All right, so Rush, tell us about the performances we just saw.
Well, this is near the opening of Hecuba, and as you could see, the chorus tell Hecuba, who's the fallen queen of Troy, that her daughter Polyxena is about to be sacrificed by the conquering Greek army. And you have this marvelous monologue Polyxena delivers as she confronts the reality that her young life is going to end so quickly. Quite a remarkable piece.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the decision to mount this festival with this theme, Nevertheless They Persisted,
Well,
and to showcase Euripides' works.
Yes, well, as you know, Nevertheless They Persisted is a something that popped up in the U.S. Senate, to the disgrace of the U.S. Senate when they silenced Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. And we took the title because of the Me Too movement and the efforts among women all over the world to be heard. And it's peculiar, but Euripides, running 2,500 years ago for a primary male audience with male actors, nonetheless presented extraordinary women characters and female choruses. And the plays this summer, Helen and Hecuba, both feature strong female protagonists who get their comeuppance on a patriarchal world in different ways with the support of other female characters and particularly female chorus members.
Okay, all right. So, Alita, can you talk a little bit about the movement that we saw from the chorus actors in that scene?
Yes, that is the first chorus as part of Hecuba, and 6 choral members. So it's been really interesting. That particular chorus has a special flavor. It's more sculptural. It has a darker quality, of course, because of the nature of that play. And what else can we say about it? To say about choruses in general, I would love for Rush to speak a little bit.
Well, as I mentioned, the chorus is extremely important in tragedy. A lot of directors are afraid of it, but it is a remarkable opportunity for choreographers, actors, performers, because it keeps you from the restrictions of psychological character. The chorus represents all sorts of things, the situation that they're in, but also they refer to myth, they sing, they dance, they move in a way that is not realistic, it is choreographed and extremely expressive, and this allows Greek theater to get at a much bigger range of things than a lot of contemporary theater.
I like to call it a movement, like kind of a movement scape that we're creating. So it's movement storytelling, but it's also gestural, and I'm assisting Rush so that the whole thing comes together, the environment and the atmosphere.
And do the chorus actors have any direct contact with the roles such as Hecuba?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, the Hecuba chorus is comprised of Trojan slave women, and they are all en route to Greece, including Hecuba, as slaves. All of the men have been killed, so they work in great solidarity with Hecuba to exact her revenge. And then in Helen, it's interesting, they are supportive and also enslaved Greeks. It's not as dire in Egypt, but Helen has a different relationship to them. It's a very different kind of play, and she makes promises she can't keep to them.
And also that movement language is very different, lyrical, sensual, rhythmic.
All right. Tell me about the inspiration to combine these two plays into one.
Well, love that question. It's an idea that I came up in conversation with Courtney Walsh when we came up with the 20th season. We thought, what would we do? Went to a range of prospects and decided, well, I've done many different kinds of theater, as you know, but I thought, let's go back to the Greeks. It's where theater started in many ways. And what would be good for Courtney Walsh to perform? And we thought, well, why don't you do Hecuba? And I thought, well, that's good tragedy, but maybe we should do something riskier. Let's do Helen. And I thought, why don't we put them together? Never been done. They were written about 10 years apart. There were no obvious connections in terms of chronology. However, there is an interesting phenomenon that happens at the end of Hecuba. And after she exacts her revenge, as Courtney mentioned, there's a prophecy that she will be turned into something quite horrible. She will be converted into a fiery bitch dog, and in some sort of weird prediction that she's going to become a sort of monster. And so we decided, let's use that transformation that Euripides suggests at the end of Hecuba, and instead of having her turn into this fiery monster that's predicted, she will turn into Helen. Now, Helen is often called, in a nasty way, a bitch, because
by Hecuba.
Yeah, by Hecuba in Hecuba, because they think that she's this sort of loose woman who ran off with Paris and started the Trojan War. But Euripides one-ups us here, because in his version, it's a fake Helen, a clone, a phantom that the gods make and send to Troy. So the whole war is fought for a phantom. Think of weapons of mass destruction. And Helen is actually sequestered in Egypt, keeping herself safe for her husband like a loyal wife. And so the play inverts even the notion of who Helen is. So you have some wonderful transformations, clearly a great opportunity for theatrical magic. And given the actress Courtney, who can play both parts, we actually, the audience sees the transformation on stage.
Oh.
So it's not, it's sort of done, sort of like something you'll see pretty soon from the second play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Courtney, how did you navigate that, going between learning the parts of the two characters?
It's funny. It's actually it's not as challenging as it sounds, in that actors always transition between. I went from Native Son, a play set in 1940 Chicago, to Timon of Athens, a Shakespeare play, and that's not so weird. It's the compression maybe that's difficult, but they're such different characters, and I love the magical transition that happens on stage when you get to see Hecuba dissolve and Helen emerge. They have different ways of speaking. The language of the two plays is different. The tone of them is different. One is very hard and mean, and the tone of the second play is much lighter and has much more comedy in it. My costume changes completely, 2 different wigs. So all those things help. Yeah, and the soundscape I wanted to mention, because it's part of the landscape that Alita creates with movement, and the designer Connie Strayer creates with the costumes and set. That also helps tremendously, because you feel like you're in a different world. And it would be odd to behave as Hecuba in the world of Helen anyway.
Right, right. Now, for the audience, will there be an intermission between Hecuba and
Yes,
Helen?
I should point out that Greek tragedy is often thought of as being quite long, but it actually isn't. The plays are a third the length of Hamlet, at least, perhaps even a quarter of the length of Hamlet. And we've cut them a little bit in our adaptation. So the first play runs under an hour, but we see the transition into the Helen, and then we take an intermission, sort of come back and see what's coming. And then the second play is a little bit longer, but not much. So that's how we work that.
Yeah, it's the running time of a normal play.
A normal play.
Even though it's
By the time
two.
they're together.
Right.
But there is an intermission for them to figure out, well, okay.
Where are we going with this?
Not old Euripides.
All
Got to
right.
talk about him at intermission.
All right, well, I think we'd like to see Helen emerge on our stage, so we'll excuse Courtney to go back to the performance area. And in this scene, she'll be playing Helen, and she'll be joined by Doug Nolan, who's playing
Clemenus.
Clemenus.
Yes.
Great, so Rush, what would you like to tell us about the scene before we see it?
Right, so now we moved from near Troy and Hecuba to the world of Egypt, where Helen has been sequestered and has remained faithful to her husband Menelaus. She is pursued by the Egyptian king Theoclemenus, who wants to marry her, but she is loyal to her husband Menelaus. This is where it gets interesting. Menelaus has shipwrecked on Egypt, thinking he's come back with the real Helen, the phantom he got from Troy, when in fact he confronts his wife and realizes, my God, I took the wrong woman from Troy. In fact, she was no woman, she was a phantom. And they have constructed a ruse to fake Theoclemenus out. And the ruse goes like this. This man, Menelaus, who's referred to in the scene, is a shipwrecked survivor who saw Menelaus drown. And so they're going to arrange a funeral that allows Helen and Menelaus to make an escape. Theoclemenus, who's come thinking she's run away, discovers the mourning Helen, who's mourning for her husband Menelaus, and is thrilled to learn that he, in fact, now has a chance to marry her. And with that sort of setup, the scene proceeds.
All right, wonderful. Let's watch.
Hail to Proteus, my progenitor. So I greet your tomb each time I leave and return to the palace. I have left the hunt. For I hear some Greek has slipped through my net to steal my Helen. If he's caught, he dies. What's this? I've come too late? She's already gone? Spirited away somehow? Open the stables, prepare the chariots. I will stop anyone who tries to snatch from me the wife I want. Wait. My quarry hasn't fled. She's here. Helen, why have you changed your lovely robes to mournful black? Oh, and your gorgeous hair, you've taken a sword to it. Oh, you're soft. skin is scarred. Has some horrible dream driven you to this? Or news from home that tears your heart? Tell me!
I am lost, destroyed, bereft. I am nothing now.
What fate falls so hard on you? Share it with me.
Menelaus, how can I say it, is dead.
Terrible news, though it should make me happy. But how do you know? Did Theonoe tell you?
She had a vision.
Ah,
And we have an eyewitness,
someone
too.
saw it. Who? Where is he?
That man lying over there.
Look at him. Filthy, in rags.
Poor wretch, my husband must have looked like that.
Where is he from? Who is he?
A Greek. Sailing home from Troy with my husband.
He saw it. How did Menelaus die?
Miserably. Storm-tossed, drowned at sea.
Where?
Not far off this rugged coast.
How did he survive and make it here?
Often the crew fares better than its captain.
Menelaus went down with his ship. But this man?
Sailors picked him up and dropped him on the beach.
What of your evil double they brought back from Troy?
Oh, that phantom Helen vanished like the mist.
Priam and his city laid to waste for nothing.
I suffered too, just like the Trojans.
Menelaus' body. What funeral did he get?
That's the worst of it. Nothing. Nothing yet.
So you cut your hair and wear black.
I'm undone. I feel like my life is over.
Now your husband's gone. Will you still deny me?
My life at this tomb is over. Let's prepare a wedding.
Oh, thank the gods! How long I've waited for this.
But first we must wipe away the past. Truce, reconciliation.
It's gone. Vanished. Never to be seen again. Flown up to the heavens.
Well, thank you to Courtney Walsh and Doug Nolan for giving us another sneak peek into Hecuba Helen. So, Rush, what was fun or challenging about directing this particular scene?
Well, we were blessed that Doug Nolan, who plays Theoclemenus, is a juggler, professional juggler, and he said, well, listen, you know, I can juggle machetes. And I thought, well, Theoclemenus is angry, he doesn't like Greece, he's afraid they're going to take his prospective bride, Helen, away. And so he said, let's incorporate that. And then, of course, he does magic tricks, so we thought, what a wonderful opportunity. And it picks up something of the magical, strange doubleness, fictive, false world of Helen. Is Helen real? Right. Is it the phantom? What's real? What isn't? And Euripides goes to town with that theme in very troubling, funny and troubling ways.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Alita, you didn't teach him how to juggle. That wasn't part of your choreography.
That was not part of my choreography. But there's a lot of dance in that particular chorus, the Helen chorus. More dance than in Hecuba, actually. Okay. It's more lyrical.
So let's talk a little bit about the adaptation process. So when you decide you want to do an adaptation, how do you start? Do you do a fresh translation of the work? Do you start with an existing translation?
Yeah, so because I do ancient Greek, although increasingly rusty, but I do it. I translated the two plays, but before that, Courtney and I had talked about it, and she was my co-adapter, and she had some ideas, but then after the translation, I made the translation, then she really went to work on it.
Okay. Okay.
And there are elements of Helen that have a nod to modernity and modern humor that when you translate it quite literally from the ancient Greek, don't read that well, but we can get the flavor of them with just a slight tweak.
I'd say something else that I've discovered. It's true of any actors working on anything, but when you sort of dig into something that's good, Shakespeare, the Greeks, things like that, you start discovering very interesting parallels that you wouldn't otherwise think if you hadn't put the two things together. And it turns out that they're remarkable, a kind of remarkable interplay between the story of Hecuba and the story of Helen, the story of these two women, poetic images that pop up. For example, you heard about the funeral at sea they're going to prepare, and all these images of bodies at sea made us think of the refugees in the Mediterranean. So many things start to connect, and that comes out increasingly as we worked on the play. So out of the adaptation, the actual rehearsal process has generated lots and lots of connections, which Alita's picked up in her choreography. Michael Keck, who's doing the music, New York composer I worked with for many years, wonderful, wonderful guy. Great talent, is pulling elements that mirror back to the two plays. So when you're watching the second play, you're in a different world, but there are moments when you are reminded of the previous one. And similarly, if you could look in retrospect, you'd realize there are elements in Hecuba that point to Helen. As Courtney said, Hecuba curses Helen many times in the first play, and then she ends up playing that part in the second play. So.
And also, I don't want to fail to mention that there are two big ideas that really link the play and tie them together with the Nevertheless They Persisted, which is that both women are underestimated by the worlds they live in. That is the key link between the two of them. Hecuba is thought to be old, childless, defeated queen, now a slave. No harm to anybody and no threat. So they can do whatever they want to her, her children, her life, and she has no power. And that's not right. It's not correct, because she does wreak her own revenge with the help of her women, who are also dismissed as non-people, really. And then in Helen, she is completely underestimated as just a beautiful name that people rally around. Her other persona is even a phantom, not even a complete person. So nobody thinks that she has the wherewithal and the smarts to figure out how to rescue herself and Menelaus. She's the one who does it. Menelaus, who's this big war hero, can't come up with a solution, but she does. So both of them defy expectations, and I think that's, to me, the most compelling element of both stories.
An interesting thing about the chorus in solidarity and in unison creates a kind of a powerful, also behind Courtney, around Courtney, and the whole atmosphere, the power of women working together in solidarity, and that's one of the points that's made in both plays.
And we saw that in the first scene with Gianna and Brenna speaking in one voice.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
All right, great, wonderful. Well, this promises to be an exciting night of theater in the context of the bigger summer festival. So let's talk a little bit about the summer festival and what the other elements are.
Right. Well, so the festival we call Nevertheless They Persisted. Of course, the primary pièce de résistance is the two plays, Hecuba Helen, but we also have a free film series on Monday nights. In fact, it starts July 9th and runs through beginning of August. We have 6 films. 3 of them are the great films by Michael Kakianis of Greek tragedy, Electra, The Trojan Women, and Iphigenia. And then we follow that with 3 films by the great female German director, Margareta von Trotta, also about 3 great strong women. I won't go into all of the details of those, but they're really wonderful. You won't see them in your local theaters. Great, great classic German films with, of course, wonderful subtitles. And also each film is introduced by someone who knows something about the film. Tobias Wolff is one of our introducers, so am I, and some other people, so it's free Monday nights. And then we also have a in-depth symposium, community symposium on Saturday, August the 4th, in which we do scenes from different plays, not from these 2, but from plays related to the Nevertheless They Persisted theme, connected to the Trojan War, and that's called the Trojan War Then and Now. And so it's a look at how that war has been used across time to get at contemporary problems, including contemporary ones. Some things, sadly, are still with us.
And there's a continuing studies program course.
Well, I teach a I teach a course called Euripides Our Contemporary, and I hope your viewers can see from the scenes that there are all sorts of ways in which a very old playwright in an old dramatic form can speak to us now. That's why we bother with them.
Okay, wonderful. Now the symposium, it's an all-day event? Or,
yes, it's from about 9:30 to 5. There's a wonderful lunch and some great speakers, something on Trojan women on opera, Trojan women on film. Richard Martin, a classicist, talks about the Trojan War as across history in terms of literature. It's a wonderful, wonderful day.
Okay. And Courtney and Alita, will you be participating in the symposium as well?
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm really excited about it.
That's the panel at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
I actually just want to give a shout out to the fact that the chorus are all Stanford theater majors, and they're really wonderful students, and very excited actually to sit at the feet of Rush and hear about the Greek theater in general from him, and about the chorus in particular.
Yes.
And I would say the public too, there are not that many opportunities to see Greek tragedy directed by somebody who also is a scholar on the subject. They don't intersect that often, the academic world and the actual theatrical producing and directing of them. And so he has a really wonderful insight into the material.
Which makes it really exciting.
Yeah.
Great.
For
Well,
all
happy,
involved.
excellent. Happy 20th anniversary
Thank
to
you,
Stanford
Nina.
Repertory Theater. We have just about a minute left. So let's recap for our viewers that Hecuba Helen is running from July 26th through August 19th at the Robley Studio Theater on the Stanford campus. And it's part of the summer festival whose theme is Nevertheless, They Persisted. And as Rush mentioned, there's also a Monday night film series and a community symposium on August 4th and a continuing studies program course. Rush, could you tell our audience, our viewing audience, how they can get more information about the festival?
Right. The best way to do that is to go to our website, stanfordreptheater.com, and there's information about this summer festival and also our past seasons. Also, you can phone if you want to get more information, 650-725-5838, or email us at stanfordrep@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Peninsula Backstage is online also. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/peninsula-backstage. Like our page if you'd like to see updates when new episodes become available for viewing online and on the air. I'd like to thank our guests from Stanford Repertory Theater, Rush Rem, Alita Hayes, Courtney Walsh, Gianna Clark, Brenna McCulloch, Doug Nolan, and Leah Zawada. And thank you to our viewers. We appreciate your watching this episode of Peninsula Backstage. And remember to go out and support local live theater.